Bonjour, mes amis. Welcome back to the Jamie Bolam podcast. My guest today is one of my best friends in the whole wide world, Remy Truer, aka Remy, for all of you non-French geezers out there. Remy and I met when he was studying a Master's in Law last year at the University of Exeter, and he is currently studying a Master's in Commercial Law at Paris Dauphine University in Paris. Oui, baguette. Remy and I met last year through Muay Thai, that's Thai kickboxing, but our romance truly blossomed when he and two other friends convinced me to try salsa dancing. I have since become a Latin dance addict. Thank you, Remy. From the distant land of northeast France, not too far from Strasbourg, Remy is an absolute gentleman and enjoys football, martial arts, dancing salsa, bachata and kizomba, hitting the gym, hiking, travelling, and, most importantly, going to church, as a strong traditional Catholic. Remy is also Mr. Worldwide and grew up between Denmark, Egypt and France, as you shall hear in this episode. Ladies, he's single! In today's short episode, which we recorded just before Remy had to catch the train back to France after returning to England for his graduation ceremony in Exeter, and a quick trip with me to Oxford, we touch on a lot of fascinating subjects. Listen on to hear what it means to be a true gentleman, the valuable lessons sports can teach us, our thoughts on solo versus team sports and why you should do both, how going through shared hardship is a great way to make friends, life growing up in Egypt, the relationship between France and the UK, how university life differs between these two countries, and our quick thoughts on why we love salsa. If you enjoy this episode, please follow me on your favourite streaming platforms for more. So you don't miss out on anything due to algorithm madness, I have made a free email newsletter that you can sign up to at jamiebolam.substack.com. I hate spam and much prefer speaking to writing, so as of now, the only intentions I have with the newsletter is to alert you guys to when an exciting new episode has been released and who is slated to come on the podcast in the future. I might add some other bits, like what music I've been listening to lately, but I'm taking this one step at a time and I'm a busy guy, so there won't be anything too crazy on there just yet. You can also follow me on Instagram at jamie.a.bolam. Like the newsletter, I will just use this page to share updates on the podcast, but I might also share some calisthenics, some Latin dancing, basically anything that looks super cool, treating it like a public PR page for myself. So I would love it if you would give me a cheeky follow on there as well. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I present to you Remy Truer. Bonjour. Bienvenue au Jamie Bolam podcast.
Merci beaucoup.
Merci. Okay, my guest today is my very, very good friend Remy Truer. Is it Truer or Truer?
Truer.
Putain. Yes. Okay, nice. Would you like to introduce yourself, Remy?
Yeah, sure. Firstly, I'm really happy to be on your podcast that I've been listening to. I'm Remy. Both of my parents are French. My mom is from Brittany and my dad's from Moselle, which is the east part of France. I've had the opportunity to live in Denmark for 7 years, then in Egypt for 5 years, before going back to France and having the opportunity to study 1 year in Exeter, where we both met.
Yeah, Exeter University.
Yeah, and otherwise I'm just passionate about sports, dancing.
Yeah.
I'm also Catholic, which is a big part of my identity.
Oh, 100%. Chad.
Yeah, we could say that.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it.
Nice,
I have two brothers.
Yeah, you have two brothers.
Love very much.
Oh, big love. Wholesome.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, I think we should start. There's a lot
of
things
things we can say.
I mean, how did we become friends?
So it went really spontaneous.
Yeah.
We met at Thai boxing when we were at Exeter University Society of Thai boxing, and I think we just sparred, and for some reason you spoke French. So we clicked quite early on with a common passion, right, which is sports or like confrontation maybe. Yeah. And then I dragged you to salsa.
Yeah. Because
I joined the salsa society just before, maybe 2 weeks before we met, and I told you that it was it's amazing, and since you were very curious about everything, you wanted to come And then we've been dancing both like ever since.
We're addicts. We're
addicts. Everywhere we go, we dance.
Yeah, literally.
You went to Portugal.
Dancing.
I went back to France now in Paris. I dance. I mean, my schedule is quite busy, but I try to dance whenever I can.
Yeah.
And I mean, we just became friends through salsa, Thai boxing. We went hiking in Scotland as well.
Yeah.
For a week.
That was sick.
And it is just a lovely friendship.
Romance to end all. Nice. So what do you say? So people often say like, oh, Remy, like Muay Thai and boxing is a weird combination. What do you say?
Yeah, usually it's a weird combination. I have this saying, Thai boxing is to beat the man's ass and salsa is to dance with the now girlfriend, you know? So it's kind of a mix between violence and softness.
La violence et la douceur.
La violence et la douceur. And it was quite funny because on Wednesday we had sparring, and so I showed up in salsa just after sparring with my face, sometimes a bit hurt.
Yeah.
And it was just for me, it just goes well together because it's the movement of the body. It's also the road to be a true gentleman.
Oh yeah, we'll get onto that.
I really think so. But it is not a really common combo. But I think to be a true gentleman, you should be able to be violent, or at least have the capability of violence, but also to be able to be soft and confident, which is realized through salsa.
Yeah,
or bachata.
Nice. So the gentlemanliness sounds like a good topic to chat about. What and I'd say you're definitely a gentleman. 100%. So like, what makes someone a
gentilhomme? Someone a gentilhomme. A gentleman for me is a class. It comes first from probably the appearance, how you come up to people. I think a gentleman has to be classy to some point, well dressed, or at least trying to be articulate, being also have the capability of strength, because otherwise, if you're just weak, you cannot just act. I think for you to be virtuous, you have to have the capability of violence, in the sense that you have to be able to protect your loved ones, your family. And this is things with the gentleman. You can dress sharp and be intellectually sharp, and have that equity, but you also have to have the ability to put your hands in the dirt. And to be able to defend what's worthy in your eyes. And of course the gentleman has to, in my view, strive to be a better person, learn more, deepens their knowledge, and drink wine and eat cheese.
Oh, of course, that's the French bit. Nice. Yes. Well, yeah, whenever I've met any French people here, they're always like, man, the bread in the UK sucks, the wine sucks, the cheese sucks. What's your experience?
I completely agree.
Ooh,
the cheese shelves in supermarkets are, I mean, there's no too little choice often, or it's super expensive.
Damn.
Which for me, as a Frenchman who loves mostly cheese, I'm not that big of a drinker.
No.
Overall. But yeah, the bread, I mean, the baguette, and we have all those diversity of pain de campagne. Big like whole bread that we not necessarily have in the UK. So yeah, I would have to back it up.
Fair enough. No, interesting, nice. So what made you want to try salsa then? Because you've been very sporty in the past. You love football.
Yes, I've.
Have you always wanted to box?
Yes. Well, right? My mom, something we talked about actually recently. I always wanted to box since I was a kid. I was maybe 4 or 5 years old. Then I was maybe 6. I was 6, and I don't know. Maybe I came across a movie and I wanted to box. Then every year I would ask my mom, and my mom would say, "No, you have too beautiful of a nose." So she didn't let me until I was 18.
Oh yeah.
And when I was 18, I had loads of work for my studies, so I didn't. But as soon as I had the time, which was in Exeter, I directly joined Thai boxing. Yeah. Because I've always wanted to. I've always had this fantasy of Greeks, of having the harmony between the mind and the body, of being able to wrestle, but also being a philosopher.
Yeah.
This dichotomy for me is just...
It's super cool.
It's super cool, and it's just, you're not just a thinker that doesn't go to the gym and doesn't, I don't know, lift 150 or 80 kg on deadlift.
Yeah.
You can do both.
Yeah.
You can do both.
Exactly, yeah.
And that's what you and I strive for,
Yeah,
I think.
100%.
We try to have the harmony between the body and the soul. So I've been quite a sporty person. I've played football since I was 6 to I was 18.
Mm-hmm.
And in the last 3 years of high school, I was what's called section sportive, which is kind of a sports school where your schedule, you amongst your modules, you have sport and you have football. And I was playing doing maybe between 12 and 15 hours of sports per week.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So that was quite challenging, balancing this and also having good grades and my A level. But I mean, sports is just part of my life. Otherwise, I just feel so weak. I don't feel confident because of all the serotonin that you generate when you do sports. You're just confident about yourself. And what I like about sports is that it's just a great way of teaching. Yeah. In the sense that if you prepare your schedule, like your sports schedule, you can do the same with studies. If you're prepared, then you commit to your schedule. You work hard. You have a good sleep. You have a good night of sleep. Then you rest. You eat properly. You will have a result. Yeah. And if you fail, the sports teach you that firstly, in collective sports, you're not alone, and you gotta be by each other's side. And also, you have to come back after and bounce back once you've failed. And I just think that sports is a good life lesson teacher.
Yeah.
And sports is just something to everyone. Just do sports, whatever it may be. And even if you struggle a bit doing sports, you feel that everyone's watching you, you will not be good enough. I strongly encourage everyone to just say day one instead of one day.
Yeah, that's deep. Nice. So yeah, what's your experience with say team sports versus football versus a solo sport like weightlifting? Because I've always done more solo sports. I was never much of a fan of team sports. And now I'm getting to team sports like rowing, and I do football and stuff in school, but I guess it was I like to just be fully responsible for what I've done. I didn't like it say I can't catch for shit. When I was doing dodgeball, I'm the sickest dodger on the planet. I'm like Neo in the Matrix, but I couldn't catch for shit. So I didn't want to it feels bad when you let the team down in that sense, right? But then it's growing up, I like solo sports more because it's just you, right? So you have more agency over it, I guess. But there's a lot of value obviously in team sports, and we're social creatures. So now I'm correcting my mistakes. But what are your thoughts on that?
I would say that solo sports, of course, you have personal accountability. That it's you only. If you fail, it's you. If you win, it's all on you. Or your coach, your family, and everyone who supports you. But overall, you have the final word. In collective sports, what I like is that firstly the camaraderie. You make really good friends because you go through hardships. I mean, on a football season, if the season goes well, you've made friends, because it's always easy to make friends when everything's going good. But then when because we've been like this with my team at some point, we're, I think, one of the last, and we're struggling to be in the league. And that's where you see what you are made of. And also you find yourself in a position where you can't blame everyone. I think that the good way to approach a collective sport is to have personal accountability for failure, but collective view of winning. Okay. So if you fail, or if the team fails, you should question yourself. What haven't I done? What should have I done? It's just like the French football team when they lost the World Cup. I think it was heartbreaking. It was heartbreaking, and we went through all the emotions.
Oh, we did. That was a emotional roller coaster. As you say, an emotional elevator in French.
And that's also emotional. It was.
My god.
We went through the whole spectrum.
Yeah.
Every player should question themselves first. What should have I done? What didn't I do to be better, to help the team?
I'll tell you what, man. Everyone wasn't Mbappe.
Yeah.
If we just claim Mbappe and just have 11 of him.
Yeah. I mean, he was in the second half especially. He was outstanding.
Machine.
So for collective sport, camaraderie, because through hardships you make deep friends. And when you make deep friends, you're most likely to sacrifice yourself in the game for them. Just I don't know about rowing, but when you have a friend that maybe he's not in a good day, he's a bit sick, or you will work for him because you're friend with him. And when you don't know, you maybe more, you could be a bit more inclined to just say, you know what, fuck it. But when you care about them, when they're your friends, you be just, let's motivate each other and strive for the common goal. But then of course, when some players you feel are to blame, it's a bit hard sometimes when you've done absolute best, and you have just done some little mistakes and still you lose because of XYZ. I still think it's a good life lesson to be able to bounce back as a group, rather than just yourself. And even when you win, I think that the greatest thing about collective sports is once you're down, you can all try to bounce back. And when you win, you have someone to celebrate it with.
Yeah, that's true.
Because once you're alone, okay, if you play tennis, of course you have your coach, you have your mates, that your training partners. But it's not like you've won, you know? Yeah. It's not like you're 20 or you're 25 and you're just all together celebrating. And I think just to have someone that is happy for you as much as you are, it's priceless.
That's true.
I really think it's priceless. But and what are your thoughts about being coming from a individual sport and then moving to rowing? What are your first impressions?
Oh, interesting. I think it's the camaraderie. Like it's a good way of making friends. And like you said, and it's reflections I've had with my other friends as well. How a good way to make friends is through shared hardships. And I think that's how you bond as friends. Even if you don't know someone, like there's one guy I've hung out with twice here at Oxford, like one-on-one. We hung out twice, but we have really deep conversations, you know, and we were going through our shared struggles on, you know, like just Oxford relationships, like the whole shebang. And like we're, you know, insofar as I know anyone that I've been here for a few months, like, you know, he's a solid guy, you know, and that bonds you in the same way. Like if you're, you know, going through the hardships of a team sport, or everyone's getting up at 6 a.m, you know, to row in the freezing cold, like, you know, which I'm not looking forward to January for that. I'm gonna have to buy some gloves. You know, that's what bonds you, you know. So yeah, if you want to make better friends with someone, you know, I would say go through hardships with them, either that's going on physical exertion like a hike, or team sports or whatever, or like on a emotional or social level, you know, like open up to people, you know, and have like a deeper chat rather than what was on Love Island last night, you know. And I think that's how you get deeper friendships, because then you get to properly know someone, you know. Not that all of your conversations have to be like that, but that's one thing I've noticed, and I think it's really nice. And just the team vibe, like, you know, like you said, like everyone can celebrate together. Like with our men's team on the college I rowed for, St. Anthony's, like, you know, we had some sick races. They were super fun. You know, me and one of the other guys, Ryan, went shirtless on our rowing race, trying to mock the enemy teams. It was hilarious. And ultimately, like, we in that first race, we ended up losing by like a hair, like the finest margin, which is a shame. And I couldn't make this next round of races because of my timetable. But you know, the boys did well. Like, and just seeing the team spirit, and, you know, we'd go and support the girls' novice team. And, you know, there was multiple times when like we all lost our voices, like shouting and cheering for them, running alongside the bank, watching them. Like, they demolished it, and they won the entire racing thing, the St. Anthony's Novice Women's. For any of you girls listening to this, like, big up, you know. And then when we had a big Christmas dinner for the whole boat club, like, you know, we're like, yeah, we got the coolest girls team, you know. Like, the celebration was lovely. So I really enjoyed that, you know. But yeah, obviously then it is a shame, like, if you're doing your best and, you know, someone else slips up, like, you know, like you said, like, you always got to think about what you can do better. But it's nice to have the team there. Yes. You know, and make friends. And that's what I realized about calisthenics, because last year with Calisthenics Society, we're working out in the cold all together, and having people there, even if, you know, you're just doing pull-ups together. It's just the kind of people that come to calisthenics. Like I say, like, I get on with them super well, but having people to work out with and just mess around with is a real pleasure. And I realize that's the true value of the society, obviously, as well as getting buff. But working out alone this year, like it hits different, you know. And yeah, I miss the calisthenics homies, you know. So yeah, team sports has been good. It's been better than my past experiences at least. So, but yeah, how is it living in Egypt?
Oh,
absolute step change.
Yeah, absolute step change. So, so when I moved from Denmark to Egypt, the first thing I noticed is when you get out of the airplane, and you have this heat, like this heat I've never experienced before, and also the air in Cairo is quite dry and thick for some reason, for maybe the pollution, to some extent. Egypt, it is a fantastic country, honestly, but it's just once you arrive and you speak no Arabic and mostly everything is in Arabic, it's really a culture change compared to when I discovered Denmark, because I was so young. I just grew up with it, and also it's the same alphabet, the Danish one.
That's true.
I mean, you have three more letters in the Danish alphabet, but in Egypt it's it's the Arabic alphabet, so it's completely different. I've been there since I was 10 to 15. I've had an incredible time, and it was super interesting as I lived through a quite interesting political period.
Was the Arab Spring?
Yes, it was the Arab Spring. So I lived a couple of months under Hosni Mubarak, which was the president or dictator, if you want to put the terms, or authoritarian regime. We've lived through this, then the Arab Spring, until the first election of Mohamed Morsi, which was which was the candidate of the Muslim Brotherhood, to then him being removed by the army, which was supported by the people, to the election in fine of Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, which is the current president. Egypt, they what I really like there is that they have still, compared to Western Europe, a strong sense of family.
Oh yeah.
They won't let their parents, on average, of course, in retirement homes. They will just take them with them in their apartment. Often the kids will also have apartments just near to their parents, because they meet quite often. There's also this emphasis on modesty.
Oh yeah.
That we don't have that much in Europe.
Sound like what you wear or your attitude in life? Or...
Yes. You don't go and do debauchery on the streets. You just be modest. It's not necessarily debauchery. It's just to notice and to realize that there's a private aspect of your life and there's a public thing. And once you don't behave the same necessarily on private and on the public. It's not that you're not yourself. That is what is being widespreadly said in Europe, is that you should be able to do the same thing you do in private and in public, and I don't think so. I think you don't dress the same if you go to the beach, if you go in town, if you go to a restaurant, date night, and if you go, I don't know, to church, or if you go in a club for people who go clubbing, you don't dress the same, because it's not the same social codes and social norms.
That's very true.
And in Egypt, of course, there's a social pressure that's a bit much, because otherwise you'd just be shamed if you don't comply with those rules. Even though it's quite changing a bit now, since I've left, from what I've been told. But I really think that having a bit more modesty in the behavior, in how you dress, would be a good thing for Europe. And also putting family as the central nucleon of societies. When we have retirement homes, when you see how in France, at least, they treat elderly people in retirement homes. Especially during COVID, man, they were completely alone. They weren't able to see anyone for days, for years. They're just waiting to die, and it's just horrible. When you can take care of them. Of course, it has a cost to have your parents with me, but I think it's a high imperative, because a retirement home still costs loads of money. Otherwise, in Egypt, there's this thing that is really, omnipresent. Is God. Is God. I'm Catholic, but I've lived in France quite a bit, especially recently. It's a secular country for hundreds of years, especially since the French Revolution. and God is not that present in France. Some people might argue that is a good thing or a bad thing. I'm not even saying on whether God should be linked with politics. I think it's quite good to have a separation between both, because it will all depend on whose religion or what is the religious sense, religious branch that is in power, that you might not agree, that will rule upon you. So I think it's quite good to have a separation between politics and God, but I'm only talking about the presence in people's lives of God. And
like in what ways?
Like for instance, I've had this friend. He had a terrible day. Okay, he was going to for some place and he had to book a hostel. The hostel reservation was didn't work out. It was raining or I don't know if it was raining, but it was really late, and he had just a draining day, and he couldn't get to the hotel, so he was going to sleep on the street. He called his dad, say, Dad, I don't know what to do, and he kept on, oh, everything's shit. He kept on whining, and his dad just said, you know what? Firstly, all thank God, like say thank God, thank God, you know. And then you just have you put a bit of distance with what you've done, and just the attitude of being thankful for what you have. I think it's remarkable. Also the charity, when you give things to other, even though some of them are really poor in Egypt. They tried their best to receive people. You can also hear God in the 5 prayers, because they are on speakers. So you can really hear it from day to day. And one of the most impressive things I've seen is on Friday evening or Friday afternoon, when you have the Friday's prayer. Everyone stops. We talked about this. Everyone stops. Even, I mean, you're in a taxi, you just stop and you go to the pavement just next where they displayed some prayer mats, and you just pray. And just the fact that everyone stops to put God first, for me it was, I mean, I didn't understand it because I lived in France and in Denmark, where it's not at all like this. And at first it was curiosity. I was because when I was in Egypt, God was not in the forefront of my mind at all, to be completely honest. But it rose question, and it really questioned me. And I was, why do these people just stop and praise God? And it was the same but different with Orthodox Christians, which we don't want to forget when we talk about religion in Egypt, because it's the oldest religion. I mean, currently still being practiced, which is the Orthodox Coptic, which are amongst the first Christians in the world. And
because for a couple hundred years before Islam arose, then Egypt and North Africa was like Coptic. Hella Christian.
Yes, and you have the monastery Saint-Quirin, which is one of the holiest place of Christianity, where you have the second after the Vatican place where you have the most oldest, the most numerous oldest books, religious and theology books. And it's also, of course, where you have the Mount Sinai, where Moses received the commands.
That's true.
So it's Egypt and Christianity are really linked, but of course now the overwhelming majority of the population is Muslim, and there are Sunnites. And really, I would say the biggest difference is one of the biggest difference in Egypt is the presence of God compared to France. But I'm quite happy still that in France we don't have that much of a social pressure to believe, because sometimes you feel that some people, they believe just, or at least they act like they believe, not to be set aside. Compared to having a real freely chosen religion. Especially if you quit Islam, you can have some quite heavy repercussion socially. And of course, in a very religious society, the pressure will automatically exist. I guess. Exactly, so in the Western world, I would say that since there's no pressure at all to not be religious, to be religious, perhaps to some extent it could be a really freely chosen religion. If it makes sense. Because there's no one that will say, oh, believe. I mean, I'm an alien in my French classmates or amongst my mates for being like going to church on Sundays and practicing. And even though I'm not not at all the perfect Christian. I try to do my best, and I'm really an alien amongst young people. Compared to Egypt, I was the only one that didn't practice.
Yeah. Oh, really?
And I didn't practice not because I didn't want to. It was because I had school on Saturday and Sunday.
Ugh.
Because the weekend was for them to have Fridays free to pray. Okay. But then you have some schools that have, since they know they have Christians, they have holidays on Saturday and Sunday. So they have Saturday weekend, Friday weekend, Saturday work, and then Sunday weekend again.
Oh, nice.
Some
okay.
schools to have both faith, being able to attend to their weekly religious reunion. Yeah. And otherwise, in Egypt, I would say that one really thing that struck me is it's there's so many people, because I came from Denmark, and then I went to Alexandria, and even if you go to Cairo, it's like millions and millions of people in cities, and there's traffic everywhere. It's hot. You can find things to eat at 3 a.m. when in France it's almost except in big cities, everything's closed. It's just people live in the night as well. What we don't really have in France, unless except party goers. But you can have regular people just walking in really late at night in Egypt, and that was quite interesting. And of course, I mean, Egyptian history is
pretty sick.
What a beauty! I mean, we visited, I think, almost everything that had to be visited in Egypt, and I would strongly recommend, of course, the pyramids, the New Cairo Museum, do a cruise on the Nile to Luxor, see also Aswan, you see Philae's Temple, Abu Simbel, go dive in the Red Sea. I mean, it's such a place full of history. You even had in one of the temples, I can't remember, you had an old Egyptian temple from the pharaohs that was turned into a Christian church by Christians who were prosecuted by the Romans.
Oh, really?
So it was used as a Christian church, and you had some wall paintings of Christian saints and Jesus Christ, and in an Egyptian temple for cool. The pharaohs. And it was just, and you could see on top of the temple some smoke. It was like some old smoke from all the candles that were probably burnt for the service that they had there. And it was just remarkable because you can find also a history of architecture of the pyramids. You have the first, or at least one of the first one, which was Saqqara, which is on the stage. It's progressive, if I can say it, pyramids, and then you have the more classic Cheops, Khafre, and Mykonos, the three big pyramids of Cairo. And you have also Dashur, which was a pyramid that was originally going to be way higher, but midway they realized that they couldn't make it, so they had flattened it out.
Oh, wow.
And you also have a fun fact. You also have loads of pyramids in Sudan.
Yeah, you were saying yesterday we went around the museum looking at all the ancient Egyptian stuff.
We don't often think about
Egypt. Oh, sorry, pyramids in Sudan.
Yes,
like pyramids. You're like, okay, Egypt.
Yeah, but there are, and of course the Nile River. Now in the Nile River still helps with agriculture, but before the Aswan Dam, you had some cruise of the Nile.
Oh, the floods.
The floods of the Nile, which I mean, it was good for the agriculture because it
brought down all the nutrients. Yeah.
So now they don't have this anymore. But then you don't have the Nile flooded once a year.
Yeah.
So it's a question of balance.
Yeah, nice. Okay, one other thing we wanted to chat about was the relationship between France and the UK. So say, obviously there's a friendly rivalry between us. We've had ups and downs throughout history.
Yes.
But like we were saying, I think it reminds me of the scene, I think from Toy Story 3, where you have Mr. Potato Head and his wife, and his wife's raising some worry with lots of hugging bear, the evil purple teddy bear, and he's basically takes away her mouth so she can't speak anymore, because it's a potato head toy, so you can just take things on and off. And Mr. Potato Head's like, hey, nobody does that to my wife. except me. And I'm like, I feel like with the English and French, it's like we can shit on each other, but if anyone else actually was like properly shitting on each other or like on one of us, the other one would be like, hey, nobody does that except me. You know, we've got each other's backs when it counts. You know,
I feel
like,
it is to some extent.
We like to shit on each other, right?
In France, we usually say that we England and France, well, the UK and France, are the world's best enemies.
Yeah.
And of course, the English and French history are so linked, especially in the medieval age, because it was not really the idea of country was non-existent. It was a relationship between vassals and sovereigns.
Sovereigns. Yeah, kings. Yeah.
Kings and also the I don't know how to say
vassal states.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you were a vassal.
Yeah, a vassal.
A vassal.
Oui.
Of an English lord, the French soil that belonged to this lord that was a vassal of the English one was technically under English control, but it was under this lord that happened to have land in the UK. So it wasn't really French in England at this point. It was lords that had soil, and it was so interconnected when you had of Exeter and all sorts of important history figures. And of course, I mean, you have England that tried to go in France, succeeded to some extent, then draw out of arc, kicked the hell out of you.
Ooh, ouch. Ouch.
And then of course, I mean, England won back. Then we have William the Conqueror.
Yeah, he was Norman, not French.
Yeah, the one that went into in the UK was, of course,
yeah, but then all the nobility started speaking French, right?
And French as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think it's like a third of the English language, just French words.
Probably, and then now we're having a hit back because now in France we have loads of English words that come back at us.
Yeah, exactly. Like we were saying yesterday after we watched Avatar 2, and I was trying to say like all the references to the first film, and you said it's called, in French they call it un flashback.
We call it flashback. And there's loads of work, especially in computing.
Yeah.
Managing. Management.
We
have loads of
Frongly.
Yeah, we say on va avoir un call. So we're going to have a video call.
Okay. Yeah.
So I mean, for me it's a bit draining because I mean we have a French word for that, but I mean, so good.
Too bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, like in the big world wars, we were side to side.
Exactly. Yeah. So what was your experience coming to England?
I've had a lovely experience, especially since in France we don't have that much of this campus idea. We have buildings where we study. If you're in a business school, you can have some campus, or even engineering schools. But I did law, so we didn't have that much of campus since they are in the downtown or in the center city, more accurately, of most cities. So you don't have the space to have all those extra buildings, especially since the number of students completely plummeted. Rose.
That's the opposite.
Yeah, that's the complete opposite.
Skyrocketed.
Yeah, skyrocketed. The number of students skyrocketed over the past. Year after year, we have more and more students. So the buildings that were in the city center, you just can't keep up with the number of students. So you don't have this campus idea, and also there's this thing of societies that we don't have in the.
We have tons of.
And in Exeter, we had 200 or 250 societies or more, and if you don't have this particular society you want, you can just make it. You can just build it. Which is quite remarkable. I know you built the Country Music Society. I mean, it's just you like country.
Hell yeah.
There wasn't one. Let's do it.
Yeah.
If I don't know. I like quite a bunch origami. If there wasn't one,
you could make it.
Yeah,
people would come.
It's amazing to just have this freedom, and even I mean you have way less lectures than we have.
Yeah, the French English. You guys seem well intense.
I mean, the year before I was in Exeter, I had maybe between 35 and 38 hours worth of lectures per week, and then you have to work extra to learn those lectures. You have readings sometimes, but we have less readings than the UK ones. Usually we can have maybe 20, 30 pages, 40. But in the UK, sometimes I've been to lectures where the non-optional readings were a bit above 100 pages. So
that's gross.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So compared to the French one, we have less readings in France.
Fine.
Unlike the differences between the UK and
exactly.
studying.
Yeah.
But I mean, the main ones are societies, campus, stash.
Oh yeah.
We don't have that much stash.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, in the UK,
you can rep your club and society stuff.
Yeah, in the UK, you have this ability to merge everything.
Yeah.
Even the graduation, I graduated last week, and you had all this merged photographs, pictures, which makes it memorable.
Yeah.
But in France, you just here's your diploma, you have maybe a hat, and that's it. Of course, you have business schools that try to imitate what happens in the UK regarding societies and also graduation. They make it a big thing.
Yeah.
But regular public universities, they don't really do that.
I see. But yeah, fair enough. Man, yeah, if you want to get university socks or something, you could make it. You could find someone to do it for you. But no, nice. And we got 5 minutes or so left before we need to bounce, get back to the train station.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just want to wrap up with some salsa as also a teaser for when Remy returns as the initial idea we conceived of for a podcast topic. We want to do more research on it, but we were just joking around and like, is salsa compatible with Christianity? Which we'll get into once we've done some research. That just sounds jokes.
Yeah, this is a funny topic. I mean, we could extend the topic.
We could. That could be a whole episode.
Between,
yeah.
How does intimacy, lato sensu,
exactly,
in Christianity? What is dance?
Yeah.
What does it represent?
Yeah. But yeah, so what do you like about dancing? We'll wrap up on the thing we talk about the most.
I love dancing because it just illustrates the harmony that can exist between men and women.
Mm-hmm.
Because when they work together, it's just beautiful. You're on time. It's smooth. It's beautiful. Both of them having a good time. You smile at each other.
Yeah.
You have a good laugh. You can be cheeky.
Yeah. Booty bump.
Yeah. And look small.
Oh yeah, a little shimmy.
Yeah.
It's good fun. It's always nice to make someone laugh.
Fun.
Yeah.
It's good fun, and it's just positive vibes. And I've never seen someone exit the dance floor less happy than he entered it.
Nice.
I've never seen it. I mean, of course, it might exist, but I've never seen it.
Yeah, exactly. If you have a really awful dance, but
then
you should have another dance. And
that's it. I just love dancing. It's just men and women working together with the music, and this is teacher in London, Chong, that said.
Daniel Chong.
Yeah, the trinity of dancing is you, your partner, and the music.
Amen.
Yeah, we can add up on that.
Yeah. Okay, the last thing I've been asking my guests as well. If you had a billboard, you could put any message on and show it to the world, what would be your message? It can be dumb, it can be deep and serious, whatever you want.
If I had to write something for the world, I would just probably say, don't sacrifice the short term for the long term. And that your interest in the short term are not necessarily your interest in the long term. Probably that.
Yeah, delayed gratification. Nice.
Yeah.
Papi.
It was lovely seeing you. Yeah, it was lovely seeing you.
Nice, cool. Well, big love. And if anyone has any questions for Remy for his eventual return on a podcast, pop it in the comments below on the Instagram post. Thank you very much for coming on, Remy. It's been a long time coming. Merci.
Je t'en prie.
Voila, ladies and gents. I hope you enjoyed this episode. It was an absolute pleasure recording this podcast with Remy, and I'm really glad we finally got together to do one, especially as Remy is one of my biggest supporters with this podcast. Thank you, bro. He's an absolute gentleman. I really admire his outlook and approach to life, and he shall certainly be returning to the podcast. So if you've got any questions for him for round 2, pop them in the comments of this Instagram post, or slide into my DMs on Instagram, whatever you want. It's all good to me. Now, if you've listened to the end, as always, you are an absolute legend. Make sure to follow this podcast on your favourite streaming platform. Subscribe to my free email newsletter at jamiebolam.substack.com and follow me on Instagram at jamie.a.bolam. Merci beaucoup, tout le monde, and I will see you next time. À plus tard.